Hi everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Top Team Testing. In this series, I go over a recently successful team and analyze its strengths, weaknesses, and common game plans through the lens of several replays including a best of 3. After one 10-minute video, you should feel comfortable bringing this team to a local tournament, if we ever get those back. This week, we're featuring the Coalossal team that Santino used to win the Players' Cup. By hitting Coalossal with a water-type move, you can not only boost its special attack with weakness policy, but also its speed with its Steam Engine ability. In Series 3, Coalossal's Gigantamax form was released. Gmax Volcalith makes opposing non-rock-type Pokemon lose 1/6 of their health at the end of each turn for 4 straight turns, which stacks up very quickly. We saw Desu win the Rose Tower Open, and Wolf win an international challenge using this Pokemon, but it dropped to fringe relevance when people started game planning for it a little more. The Isle of Armor introduced one direct improvement and several indirect ones. The charge-up move Meteor Beam gave Coalossal a powerful rock-type move to use while Dynamaxed, replacing the not-so-powerful Ancient Power. However, the biggest improvement was the introduction of Rillaboom and Urshifu. Urshifu has Aqua Jet to self-proc Coalossal's weakness policy and Steam Engine, even through Protect, while also hitting the rock types and ground types that gave Coalossal trouble. Rillaboom hits both the ground types and rock types, as well as water types with priority Grassy Glide. Both these Pokemon can easily clean up games once the opponent has been chipped down due to Volcalith. The team also features a Surf Dragapult to proc Colossal's weakness policy, Togekiss for redirection, and an Incineroar to round out the defensive core. With that, let's get into the games. You've probably seen how much damage Coalossal can do while unimpeded, so I won't focus too much on that. This replay shows how much Coalossal can do even without its weakness policy procs. My opponent leads Cinderace and Bisharp into my Togekiss and Coalossal, and well, they can't really hit the Coalossal, now can they? They switch into something that can in Dynamax or Cinderace, but the Cinderace Gmax Pyro Balls into my Togekiss's Protect, while I use Volcalith to knock it out, even unboosted. The chip damage occurs and they bring in their Hitmontop, but my Double Protect, or at least attempted Double Protect, burns their Fake Out, unless my passive damage weakened them even further. They switch the Dracovish into Bisharp, but close combat goes right into my Togekiss's Follow Me, and they take a load of damage from Max Flare, as their eject button forces them to switch out. They go into Dracovish, and the Bisharp protects, while Dracovish goes ahead and takes a KO on my Togekiss with an Ice Fang. More passive damage occurs, and after 4 turns of Volcalith, the Dracovish is down to 20%, well in Grassy Glide range. I go ahead and Grassy Glide that slot as they switch into Hitmontop. The Bisharp Sucker Punch fails because my Rillaboom is faster, and the Coalossal Heat Waves to go ahead and win the game. While most teams have a little more counterplay to Coalossal, it often forces them to deviate significantly from the game plan they normally wanted to execute. In this game, my opponent leaves Rillaboom and Riolu into Coalossal and Dragapult, and man am I in for a surprise. They Gmax the Rillaboom and go for a Rain Dance with the Riolu, meaning my Surf does way more damage than I want to do onto my own Coalossal. It also means that my Max Flare does very little to their Rillaboom, while they KO my Coalossal back with a Max Quake. Game over, right? Not so fast, my friend. Urshifu comes in and immediately switches out into the Incineroar to bait out a Gmax Drum Solo. Riolu gets a coaching off while my Dragapult neutralizes the attack boost with a Breaking Swipe, while also very nearly picking up the KO onto their Riolu. They switch the Riolu out to an Arcanine, but Breaking Swipe means that this Rillaboom really just doesn't get to do any damage. They try to boost up their attack with a Max Knuckle, and I Flare Blitz back and just barely miss the knockout. Man, Gmax Volcalith would be really nice right about now. The Incineroar switches out for an Urshifu, and the Dragapult further weakens my opponent with another Breaking Swipe. My Urshifu takes the Flare Blitz easily, and the -2 Rillaboom's knockoff does basically nothing into my Colbur Berry Dragapult. My opponent tries to sack the Riolu, but I'm having absolutely none of it, going for a Phantom Force and a Protect to stall out the terrain. They go for a coaching into the Arcanine, but my critical hits mean that I take the KO anyway, as well as KOing the Riolu with the Phantom Force. I also finally get to see their last Pokemon. Turns out it's a Cinderace. I switch the Dragapult out into the Incineroar and Protect, and my Intimidate gets neutralized by their White Herb. They correctly double the Incineroar slot, picking up a KO, and my Dragapult comes right back in. However, because their Rillaboom is at -1, my Urshifu lives the Grassy Glide, and I get to Breaking Swipe to KO the Rillaboom and weaken the Cinderace ever so slightly. The Cinderace finishes off my Urshifu, and my Dragapult loses to the Cinderace if they have Sucker Punch. Turns out they don't. And so my Phantom Force goes into the Cinderace, does about half. Their Iron Head does very little. I go for a Breaking Swipe to bait out the bounce and correctly call it. Their bounce misses because I go for a Phantom Force. My Phantom Force picks up the KO, and we win the game. While in most games you will max the Coalossal, there's a reason the Dragapult has been one of the most feared Dynamax targets for all of VGC 2020. Dropping defense stats with a max Phantasm next to physical attackers like Urshifu or Rillaboom can win you a lot of games that Coalossal can't. In this game, our opponent has a Goodra, one of the few Pokemon that Coalossal can't power through. We immediately switch out our Dragapult in fear of a Max Wormwind, and they set up Light Screen in fear of Coalossal. And then they go for a Max Quake? Are they physical Goodra? How many times have I told you guys this is such a bad set? Anyways, Coalossal lives because physical Goodra sucks, and then chunks the Klefki with Heat Wave. They switch out into Rotom and KO the Coalossal, but we don't care. We were always maxing the Dragapult. We Snarl to reduce the damage output of, well, one of their Pokemon, I guess. And they go for a nasty plot, while we go for a knockoff to get rid of the Rotom Citrus Berry. They go for a Max Wormwind to reduce our damage output, but we U-turn right back out into Dragapult just as their Goodra's Dynamax ends. They bring in Klefki, and we switch the Incineroar in to ensure that Fake Out is live as our Phantom Force ends, and their Draco Meteor whiffs because of it. The Rillaboom comes in with a Grassy Seed, so we don't do too much to it, but at least now we can safely max a Dragapult. We go for a Dynamax and Max Wormwind right into their Klefki. Cool. The Rillaboom goes for a Swords Dance, and we rotate into our Rillaboom, chipping away at their own. They go for a Grassy Glide and a Thunder Wave, also as priority, and we go for, wow, Choice Band Rillaboom hits really hard. It just KOs the +1 Rillaboom with a U-turn as we max Phantasm the Klefki to pick up the knockout. We fake out the Goodra, and then they go for a nasty plot as we Phantasm the Rotom, just getting rid of it, and now it's Goodra versus the world. Not just any Goodra, physical Goodra versus the world. Breaking Swipe immediately picks it up, and we win the game. No Coalossal needed. Despite the Coalossal, this team is actually quite Togekiss weak. Our opponent's team looks strange, but it has a lot of scary Pokemon on it to face down with a Coalossal. We lead the Rillaboom to threaten the Crocodile and the Azumarill, and they lead Crocodile Togekiss. Coalossal comes out in fear of a ground type move, but they actually max the Togekiss. We get a KO with Grassy Glide, but they max Airstream, and we end up trading knockouts. Azumarill comes in, and we bring in Coalossal to try to scare this Togekiss a little bit. We follow me a potential Water type move away, but instead, they go for a max Airstream and Steel Roller to not only remove the terrain, but also get rid of the Togekiss. Our Volclith doesn't do nearly as much as I would have hoped for it to do, and our Incineroar comes in to intimidate the Azumarill. Azu switches right back out into Porygon 2, which really effectively sponges the attacks from Coalossal. Their Dynamax finally ends after our Incineroar takes this max Airstream really easily. They go for an Air Slash, and I double up the Porygon 2, but it doesn't do nearly enough to knock it out after a recover. Friends, don't know if we're going to be able to take this thing out, but man, we came close. We go for a Protect, and they heal back up once again. Togekiss doesn't do much with their attack, but the Porygon 2 does manage to dodge a Snarl, meaning it gets to keep doing a lot more damage than I want it to do. The Volclith does take out the Togekiss, and Azu comes back in, but immediately protects itself from the Solar Beam as the Porygon 2 knocks out the Incineroar with a Thunderbolt. Now, the Porygon 2 gets a chance to heal up. As we go for a Solar Beam, we really can't afford to take an attack from the Azumarill, and I don't think we're going to do enough to win this game. We try. We do our best. Coalossal keeps chugging along, goes for a Meteor Beam to boost its special attack, but can't take the attacks, and we drop this one. Finally, let's cap things off with a best of 3. Our opponent is using the team that Joe Ugardi used to get top 4 in the North American Players' Cup, in a matchup we unfortunately never got to see. Our opponent leads Excadrill Togekiss into our Togekiss Coalossal. The Togekisses match follow me's as we max the Coalossal. They go for an Earthquake, which fails to KO, but also procs our weakness policy, and we immediately get rid of the Togekiss with a G-Max Volcalith. Tyranitar comes in, and all of a sudden this gets tricky. They max the Excadrill as we go for a max guard, and they hit right into it. We go for a Yawn, which makes the Excadrill a little drowsy, and makes it decide whether it wants to waste its Dynamax or take a nap. They go for a Rock Slide and does a chunk to Togekiss, but now they're the ones in a tricky spot. We switch out the Coalossal into a Rillaboom, and they decide they're going to take a nap, hitting a Steel Spike into Togekiss and then critting us with a single target Rock Slide. No worries. If we bring in our Shifu to pressure the Tyranitar and then click Grassy Glide into the Excadrill. The Amoonguss comes in to soak up the close combat, but Amoonguss isn't stopping the Rillaboom. We get to wait and wait and wait for all of these end of turn effects to happen, and then we get to go for another Grassy Glide, picking up the KO on the Excadrill and going for another close combat into the Amoonguss. Now they go for an Energy Ball, picking up the KO onto the Urshifu after Sandstorm, but we still have a Rillaboom. They still can't stop the Rillaboom. They go for a Protect, we go for a Grassy Glide, and they really need the double Protect because their only out is really stalling out this grassy terrain. Fortunately for them, they don't get the double Protect, and we win the game. In Game 2, they lead Tyranitar and Excadrill into our Togekiss Coalossal lead once again. This time, they go for a Dynamax into the Tyranitar as we go for a Protect with Coalossal. Their Earthquake procs a weakness policy, but we yawn the right slot. We also lose the Togekiss to a Max Rock Ball. No worries, we bring in our Shifu, which threatens both of their Pokemon significantly. We Dynamax the Coalossal. Setting up Cole was a little risky with the potential Focus Sash Excadrill, so we just close combat and Max Flare to turn off their Sand. They live with their Focus Sash and bring in the Amoonguss to help protect their Excadrill a little bit. We switch out into Rillaboom, and we go for a Max Guard because we don't want to take a nap. Their Earthquake doesn't do anything, especially with the grassy terrain on the field, and now we're in a solid spot. They switch out the Excadrill and go for a Protect with the Amoonguss, but we go for a Grassy Glide, and fortunately G-Max Volcliffe the wrong slot. However, now we start getting that sweet chip damage. We go ahead and switch out into Urshifu, which they pick up with an Air Slash, but no worries, our Heat Wave does more than enough to take 2 KOs, and their Excadrill isn't going to do enough to win this game. We end up winning the set with a clean 2-0. So, it turns out that the team that won Players' Cup is really freaking good. Let's recap. The team uses Coalossal both as a sweeper as well as a Pokemon that sets up massive amounts of passive chip damage to help powerful endgame Pokemon like Rillaboom and Urshifu clean up. Teams are often forced into awkward Dynamaxes that run contrary to their standard game plans, allowing their defensive core of Rillaboom, Incineroar, Togekiss, and damage reducers like Breaking Swipe Dragapult to halt offensive teams in their tracks, and let Choice Band Rillaboom Grassy Glide take KOs. This defensive synergy also allows you to reposition the Coalossal for later in the game if need be. Finally, if all else fails, you still have the option to Dynamax the Dragapult, reduce your opponent's defenses with Max Phantasm, and finish them off with your other physical attackers. Despite the undefeated showing in the Players' Cup, the team does have some weaknesses. The biggest weakness is late game or Dynamax Togekiss, which can really put a damper on your plans. Both your endgame Mon struggled against it, and Coalossal can't hit it super effectively after its Dynamax is over because Meteor Beam is a charge-up move. If you can deal with Coalossal without sacking your Togekiss as redirection fodder, you're often in a great spot. The team also struggles with late game Amoonguss in a similar way, but Rillaboom can often KO all of its partners, so it's not really as big an issue. Another effective game plan for bulkier teams was to set up Trick Room, meaning Coalossal was moving last if you gave it a boost, and if you didn't give it a boost, it really wasn't doing that much damage. However, this really only works if you have Pokemon that can afford to take attacks from a Choice Band Rillaboom, which has priority even in Trick Room. Finally, it's not hard for your opponent to turn the game into one big 50-50 on turn 1 if they're willing to opt into it, of course. All in all, this is one of the best teams of Series 5. It utilizes passive damage from Volcliffe in a way few teams are equipped to handle, and has a variety of ways to simply overpower the opponent while also having strong defensive synergy and damage mitigation options if you need to reposition. Once again, congratulations to Santi for winning the Players' Cup, and I'm excited to see how you all innovate the Coalossal archetype moving forward into Series 6 and beyond.